Okay, it's 7:10. Let's call us out to order. Meeting of the West Newbury Board of Selectmen, open session, April 13th, 2020. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on the local cable channels and on the internet. Meeting is also accessible by remote participation, and if the public wants to look for that, the instructions are on the town website, or you can just go to meeting, and the access code is 176-018-021. Okay. Announcements. The annual roadside cleanup will be Saturday and Sunday, April 25th and 26th. The details of where you could find bags or gloves to participate are on the town's website. Everybody will try and make our town look a little better. I've actually noticed gloves being thrown around now. That's the new waste thing. So there's gloves all over the place now. So let's make the town look a little nicer. And that'll be
a big
2 weeks from the coming weekend.
This could be a big community event because it's outside. Everybody's going to be social distancing. We could maybe need this uplifting type of an event. So I would encourage everyone to participate.
That's true. And hopefully the poison ivy won't be out yet, but it's working on it.
Well, if anybody has it, call me. I can pull it out. I don't get it.
That's a big job to offer for, Glenn. There's a lot of it.
I've done it too, and then I've come home with it on my clothes. My wife is highly allergic, and she's got it through the oils on my clothes from me helping people pull it around their barns.
Thank you to all those who donated to the Council on Aging food pantry. Still more donations are always very, very welcome, and thank you to all who did that.
Chip in, Archie, just to say it's been a tremendous, very, very rewarding to see all of the people in the community be so generous, and I just want people to know that we really appreciate that. Teresa and those who are helping her are really providing a tremendous service to the senior citizens, and the online contribution option has really opened things up. We got $2,700 just in the last 2 weeks or so. So it's tremendous.
I see that Blake is here. Do you want to talk about the Board of Health? Move out of order to discuss the trash contract. Can we? Are the board members okay with that?
Yeah, is it close to his bedtime? So I would be okay with it.
Okay, so we will take up item B first. So Blake, when you talk to Mello, they are okay with keeping the status quo for another just another year. Are they okay with that, or what? How did they feel?
Yes. Can you gentlemen hear me for starters?
Yes.
Okay. Sure. Yes, I actually sent over a amendment to the contract this morning or this afternoon. I'm sorry. I'm hoping he got that, and I'm not to Mike McCarron, and I'm hoping that was satisfactory for a 1-year extension. Price he quoted for the first year of the 5-year contract.
Blake, do you recall roughly, I remember seeing those numbers, do you recall roughly percentage-wise what that increase was?
It was the new contract for the first year, 240,000 plus. That first year was based on the automated pickup, but Jason's going to hold that number for the first year, and he'll pick it up conventionally like we do right now.
And percentage-wise, roughly what roughly what the number, the increase is would be?
Over this year, Blake. So it would be, what would be the increase over this year?
Yeah, I think he was 216 last one. Basically the
216?
yes.
Yeah.
So I did the actual percentage increase. Sorry.
Hey, that's fine.
That's about
15 to 244, so that's like 15%. Well, you know, a little under 15%.
less than that, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
One thing I think that's important to understand is when Mello had initially come forward with their proposal, they had quoted separate prices for FY21, one based on the automated, which lower price, and a higher price by about 20,000 a year for the conventional curbside. And that's largely as a result of the increasing workers' comp insurance costs that Mello and other vendors are facing. So by agreeing to provide the automated cost at the, agreeing to provide the conventional pickup at the automated price, basically a $20,000 discount, just about, actually a little bit more than that from what they had initially proposed. Is that a fair assessment, Blake?
Yes, Angus. Thank you for bringing that up. I should have brought that up. Yes, it was 260.
This is Glenn. I had to leave just like 2 seconds to reposition. Is there any, are there going to be any change? I haven't seen that amendment. So are there going to be any changes to the kind of pickup? Because people are going to, is it going to be status quo of what we're doing this year? And that means you get to put like one big package out with one big thing a week or whatever it was. Or is there going to be changes to the style of pickup?
Nope, it's going to remain the same exact as we have it right now for this year. We figured we'd try to pick this up at some kind of at the fall town meeting to start the automated for next year. So this year it's going to be, as you said, status quo.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So what does the board feel about it? It seems to me like in light of everything else going on, the last thing we want to do is start a new system where people aren't going to be completely familiar with it. At the moment, we have enough problems. It seems like they're being more than fair to give us a little time on this.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, Archie. I mean, so, you know, the change that we're being talked about in the near term would be, I think, kind of upsetting the apple cart or the trash cart, as the case may be. And you know, this will be a lot easier to stomach, I think, for a year where we figure out how to adapt to a new system.
Agreed.
Well, that's
Mello's a good. We have a good partnership with Mello, and I appreciate them doing this. And it's just too much for us to start doing stuff. Unless Angus, you probably have a lot of time on it. You can design the whole thing if you want, right?
No, I couldn't agree more with the direction the board's going on this.
So I have a question that doesn't actually, well, it relates to trash hauling, but it maybe doesn't relate to the topic at hand right now. But I wanted to just throw it out there, assuming we pretty much agreed on this. Of course, for trash hauling, there's two parts. There's the cost of hauling, which we pay to Mello, and then there's the cost of tipping, which
Correct.
we do. I can't remember who it is that's taken, you know, that we're paying the tipping fee to. But I know that some surrounding communities have worked to sort of foster relationships between homeowners and a company, Black Earth Composting, who I think they're located down in I don't know, Hamilton or somewhere down that way. You know, there would be something that residents would have to agree to on their own, you know, and it would be a different cost that they would incur, but some people would do it because there's an environmental benefit and there's also a financial benefit to the town if we reduce the weight of the haulage. And I think, Blake, at some point in the past that the Board of Health may have had some conversation with them. I actually spoke with somebody there a week or two ago, asking them if it would be possible to implement a compost, a home food waste compost pickup program in West Newbury. And it's based on the number of customers basically and the density. And there are a few neighborhoods in town that would probably have adequate density. So I'm curious if, what thought, or if the Board of Health has given it any thought, and if you have anything to add to that at this point.
Yeah, Rick, we checked into that earlier, and I believe that they wanted a minimum of 175 customers to even come to town. I can't remember the exact cost, what it would be passed off to the homeowner, but we once again needed a minimum of 175 customers. And that kind of seemed like, we certainly can check into it again by all means, but it was kind of a far reach at the beginning of that, I should say.
Okay. I have an email. I'm trying to find it right now. And that number might have gone down. And, there's a relationship between number of customers and, here we go.
The amount?
We have 15 West Newbury registered right now. When we get to 40, we could reach out to everybody to see if we're registered. Typically,
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So Blake, I should forward this to you. I kind of wanted to just have a conversation first, and it may not be viable right now, but I think it might be worth exploring. And
if the company wants to come to our town meeting, they could do a presentation.
Yeah.
And put up if they want to come, they can speak for 5 minutes at town meeting, put up pamphlets, and without a doubt, push it.
It's really, it's a no lose situation. How can we lose?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. We can check into it again. I'm sure that Angus, or I'm not sure how many people are on this meeting to give out my email address, but certainly send it to me. Thanks, Angus. But
you should have a town email address. So one thing, but this is something I don't think. We should be the person to disseminate the information and hopefully that it works, but not the one start taking phone calls at the Board of Health or at Angus, because they always come at 10 o'clock. They didn't come on Tuesday. They came on Wednesday this week. You know what I mean by that? This should be a private enterprise that we encourage in that, but we shouldn't be the people that are starting to administer all the complaints and customer service and any of that stuff.
Absolutely, Glenn. You're absolutely right. It's not the town's gig. It's a private business, and they're making a living at it. So, they would be responsible for all the relationships.
We can put them on our website. We could put them on our website as a preferred vendor, maybe. I don't even know. Have them speak at town meeting, have their literature at the Board of Health, office if somebody ever comes up and asks for it, or have it on the Board of Health stuff, and encourage it. Just, definitely. I would definitely do that, but I just wouldn't want to get into.
You know how it is when there's a Verizon problem, they often call the town too. It's just the way it is here.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, gentlemen, what I was asking, if Rick can send me their link or something, we can certainly contact them within the next week and see where they're at again. Ipswich on a weekly basis, they're a lot more dense, but we certainly back into it again. I have no.
Good.
I'll do that, Blake. I'll forward it to you. Okay.
Thank you very much, Rick.
Thanks, Blake.
Have a good night, Blake. Thank you. Tell Mello thank you.
I'm gonna wait on.
Hang on, wait before Blake. So who's going to be signing the new contract, and what's going to happen with that, Angus?
So I would obviously defer to Mike as purchasing officer. My understanding is the Board of Health that's got the authority to assign the contract, and I know historically has been the signatory to the contract. Mike, is that how it would go? Or is
basically it's going to be an amendment to the existing contract. So all the terms and conditions of the existing contract will continue. And then
Correct.
basically the only real change is to have an extension of time for an additional fiscal year. Because right now the contract is through the end of this June. So basically we take the exact same contract we have and continue it for another year.
Yeah,
And
oh, sorry. I was waiting. I did send it off to Angus and Mike today. Did you both receive that amendment?
Yeah, I saw
We
it.
did, yeah.
It looks fine. It looks fine, Blake.
Okay, so I was just gonna say,
Hey,
you guys review it. We can sign it at new virtual. I don't know what word I use, Board of Health meeting. So we can get that as soon as it's good with Mike and Angus. I'd like to sign that and get it off to Jason.
Yeah.
hey, Blake,
Yes.
this is Glenn. As a side note, I liked your idea about coming back and looking at it in the fall for the next year, because
Yeah.
trash is a we don't think it, but it's like changing somebody's, I don't know, whatever.
Absolutely.
It's big for people. You know what I mean? So that will give us a good enough lead time to get everybody ready for a new system going into the next fiscal year, and not wait until like March or April to start talking about it with the budget and stuff.
Totally agree, and I
That's
can't
good, yeah.
everyone about that, and that's what we would like to do, if possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Have a good night, Blake.
Thanks, Blake.
You
Stay
too.
safe.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Okay, we will go back to item A, updates related to the coronavirus pandemic. I would like to ask Angus, have we had any particular, just for informational purposes, have we had any particular complaints about the parking closures and things like that, or have you had to deal with that at all, or no?
There's been some flack about the closures. I hadn't seen any until a week ago Friday, when the Mill Pond and Pipe Stave were closed. But you may have seen some things on Facebook. There were quite a lot of posts there. I only saw maybe 3 or 4 emails come in, but I know that there's a lot more people who are concerned. But I will say that I think Paul has and Blake and others with the Board of Health have put out a unified front. I think they've articulated it very clearly of what the public health rationale is. And so what I've seen anyway is once people's initial concerns have been responded to with some rationale, I haven't seen any follow-up. I know, people want to go outdoors, but we're all making sacrifices.
Just briefly, so that the legislative action that has occurred, that has affected the town. Obviously, we know we've postponed the town election and the town meeting. More recent legislative action has allowed the town to postpone the due date for property taxes, for real estate taxes to June 1st, as opposed to the due date, the former due date of May 1st. Now, do we have to formally vote that? Is that correct?
Yes, Archie, is that there are 3 local options that the new legislation has put in place. One is to change the due date from May 1st to a date no later than June 1st. Obviously, you could have a date earlier than that, but June 1st would be the latest. The second would be to waive any interest or penalties on any bill that was due after March 10th until June, but paid before June 30th. Obviously, if it was paid after June 30th, the interest and penalties would then start to accrue again. But basically, give a moratorium for those bills. That's also a local option that would have to be voted by the town. The
Does
third,
does that include water bills?
that includes water bills, any fees or penalties that would go with a water bill. The water bill, I think, would still be owed at the time it's owed. But, you know, if they didn't pay it, they wouldn't be charged any penalty or fee or interest until June 30th.
Okay.
The second would be, but remember, is that bill would have had to have been delivered after March 10th, so technically it doesn't really apply. Well, actually, that's not true. It would apply because the bill was due.
No, the water
after
bills are
March
after.
10th. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
issued before, but it was due after, so it would apply.
When did the water bills go out?
I think around March 1st or something like that.
Oh, but it's,
No, I thought they were later. We were talking. No,
It,
they were
it
later.
doesn't matter. They're due after March 10th, so they would apply to water bills also. The third local option would be to extend the time for citizens to file for deferments or exemptions with the assessors from April 1st to June 1st. There's not a lot of those. I spoke with Meredith about, you know, how it would impact them, and she indicated to me that most of the people who would be eligible have already applied, but there might be one or two stragglers who would be able to take the benefit of this. And since we were closed, you know, on April 1st, it seems fair. But those would be the three local options that the board has to make the decision on. Now, and you can pick and choose. You can do them all, or you can do one, you can do 2 out of 3, whatever you decide.
I'd make a motion that we would adopt all 3 of them.
I'll read them. I move that the town adopt local options set forth in sections 10A 1 through 3 of chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020 to extend the due date for property tax bills from May 1st, 2020 to June 1st, 2020. So that's the first one.
So moved.
Of any
We're gonna
act,
do it. Are we doing it individually? What are you doing?
Do it individually.
okay, so you want to vote on that one first?
I'll second that.
Okay.
So, discussion?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, actually, this one this one I do have. So I think it's a great idea. I think it's appropriate, but I think somehow in the announcement or the publication of this extension, that it would be worth making people aware that this does have financial impact on the town, on the municipal government finances. And so that everybody just doesn't assume, okay, great, I've got another month, I won't worry about it. If it doesn't hurt you to pay the bill, it would still be great if you paid it within the original time frame, because it will help the town government function.
That's it. That important in the fact is that if you adopt any one of these, then you are required by the statute to send a notice to the taxpayers. The notice can be in the form of a letter.
Mail, though. Based on what's published here, you don't have to do it by mail. You can post it on the town website and Facebook and things like that.
Yes. You have the alternative. You can either send it a letter, or you can do, you know, on the town website, social media, and other postings. Yes.
Right. And obviously we need to do that, but however we post it, I think it's worth making it clear to people that if they are able to pay without, you know, on the normal schedule without undue stress, that it would help the municipal operations receive money in the normal time frame.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point, because there are a lot of people that are still working.
Need the money to operate.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that are still working from home and getting their weekly paychecks and that aren't. So the people would ask, you know, We
That's
really
a,
do need your money.
that's a very good addendum, yeah.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? I would say aye.
Parker, aye.
Okay, the second,
Art-
option,
Did you vote on? Did you vote on? I
Archie,
didn't
did
hear
you
your
vote?
vote, Archie, for the minutes.
we all voted aye.
Okay, it didn't come through,
Yeah.
Archie. We got it now.
Yeah, you didn't come through.
Late payment of any excise tax, betterment assessment, or apportionment thereof, water rate or annual sewer use or other charge added to a tax for any with a due date on or after March 10th, 2020, and made after its respective due date, but before June 30th, 2020. So this, in effect, is saying that Mike, that even if it would, that there, I don't think there'd be any interest from June 1st to June 30th either, if you read the way I read this. I don't know.
That is correct. That is
Okay.
how it is. You would basically, if you voted that, then you would basically waive interest and penalties up until June 30th, excuse me.
Okay.
I'd make a motion to move that.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Archibald,
Kemper,
aye.
aye.
Parker, aye.
Final one. I move that the town adopt the local option set forth in section 10A4 of chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020 to extend the due date for applications for exemptions from local property tax from April 1st to June 1st, 2020.
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Archibald, aye.
Parker, aye.
Kemper, aye.
Okay, so we'll prepare the letter and put in that, that language that Rick suggested, that, if you have the ability to pay, please do, because, the town needs the money to operate, so.
Good.
Angus, did you want to have any further comments about the coronavirus response?
Yeah, but no four-letter words, Angus, please.
Yeah.
There could be kids on the phone.
No, I think in terms of the motions that were before the board, those three covered it. I don't know if there's any, obviously we put a bunch of materials in there with summaries of the recent bills. I'm not sure how much time Mike has study all of that, but if you have questions, I think that would be it. Other than that, that's the only business.
On an administrative level, it seems like you, Mike, and the Board of Health and whomever else is involved is doing an excellent job. But then I want to say on a different level, I heard a fire truck today, and I went, wow, to my son. What, is there a call? How come he didn't go? He said, no, it was a kid's birthday. So just, I want to thank everybody else too in the whole community for chipping in and just doing simple little things that probably wouldn't mean anything in a regular course of business, but mean a lot to families that are going through a lot. And I just want to thank everybody for that. And that was just one example of what people are doing. There's a lot more.
Yeah, it's good. It's bringing out the humanity in all of us, which hopefully is there all the time.
Good luck.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you. Appreciate that very much.
I see Leah's here. Do we want to skip to article? Can we take things out of order to? I assume that she wants to be there related to item F. Do you want to do that?
You're the chairman.
Well, you guys okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yep.
Okay. Hi, Leah, how are you?
Hi, I'm just texting Brian Murphy and Rick Bridges because I know they wanted to call in for this.
Okay.
You want us, you want us to go on to something else, and when you guys are set, we'll come back to you?
Sure.
What will be next?
Okay, let's do something simple. Let's do G, parade.
Well, I don't think that's simple at all. I don't think. Something,
You don't think it's
something
simple?
would, something. I mean, what are we gonna discuss? I don't think that's simple. Are we ready to cancel it? You there?
Yeah, I just don't see, I just
That's
don't see.
Well, you know what? That's May 29th. Why don't we put it on the table? And maybe we don't have a well-organized one that we've had in the past that takes a lot of administrative work from Angus and,
Lisa?
thank you. I'm sorry. I was gonna say Council on Aging, but Teresa, why don't we not do that? But what maybe it could be a day that we just all walk down the middle of the street because we're all finally out. And it's, kind of organized, but, we don't have to do the administrative aspect of it or something. Just keep it out there. It's just something, some type of maybe Memorial Day, but we don't have the pomp and circumstance. We just maybe walk the route and we all go home. I don't know. Maybe that's more of a problem than it is, but it's over a month and a half away.
Well, maybe,
Just-
maybe what we should do is nothing for right now until
Exactly. That's my point.
talk about it anymore until if it does end up happening, it then would become sort of an impromptu event.
Yeah, we do the best we possibly can, and and that's it.
Yeah, I don't want to put more burdens on somebody to be organizing this though.
No, not at all.
I think other than, if I'm hearing the board correctly, I think, we'd need to put in for the road closure with Mass DOT. I'm not sure what the lead time is on that. But most of the time does go into kind of organizing. And if I'm hearing the board correctly, I think it would be essentially tabled, other than just, I think the road closure is really the one tangible thing that there's definitely some lead time, but that's easy. I mean, we do the same, form every year, and we could always rescind that if we end up not needing it.
That sounds great
Okay.
to me.
How do you feel about that?
Who, me?
No, Archie, you feel good about that?
I don't have a problem with that. No.
I will say I did check with the health agent, and his advice was he felt it was too early to commit to holding the parade, but he did not go so far as to say it can't happen. His thought from what he's hearing is that once we're on the other side of the peak, that the Department of Public Health and the governor will surely issue some guidance. So it sounds like we could tread water for a couple of weeks and see where we are.
Yeah, because it seems as though, if things have been relaxed at that point, because it is an outdoor event, and we could emphasize the continuing, an ongoing need for safe social distancing, that we could all be outside on the street. It's just we wouldn't be congregating, assuming that we're at that point.
Yep, I agree.
We could be throwing masks out instead of cans.
Thank you, Archie. I needed a giggle tonight. Thank you.
Did we get,
That sounds good to me. I think I'm clear. If that's the will of the board, I'm very clear. I think we can proceed accordingly. That sounds fine.
Make a motion why don't we appoint that person to the tree committee?
yeah, that's my next, that's what I was going to say. Yes. Go ahead, Glenn.
Hold on, I was looking, I'm sorry, I'm done.
Francesca
I have to go back.
Cormorant.
I move we appoint Francesca Pomerantz as full member of the tree committee.
Kemper, second.
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Kemper, aye. Thank you.
All right,
I
we'll
was
come
just,
sworn in.
hey, how do you do that? Is it virtual swearing now?
Mike, how will you swear people in?
Well, we can, basically, what I would suggest is that, I just, she comes by, the front vestibule and, we could just talk
You
right
do it
through
from the
there,
top of the stairs.
the top of the stairs and I
There
was
you go.
sworn in right there. And
Okay.
then I'll send her the other materials, for the open meeting law and for the, state ethics. Just mail it to her. So she could just come by, give me a call, and I'll come down and I'll just swear her in right there.
Do you want to do the investment policy thing while we're waiting for the planning board?
Yes, I'll give you, so the committee, I spent a lot of time on this. Lark put a lot of effort into this and they added a lot of just valuable things. I think it's worthwhile and it's been gone over with a fine tooth comb. So I feel pretty good about this. I would recommend that the board adopt this policy statement.
So I'll
Angus?
confess, I ran out of time reading through. It's a big document. There's a lot of work.
But I trust this Lark's good at this stuff. I would trust him, and I kind of speed readed it through it, if that's even a word. But I had nothing glaring came out at me. But I would trust Lark in this sense, and Archie and that whole committee.
And I will say, having been part of the process, it's, I feel strong, definitely recommend adoption, but this is also, I just want to make everyone aware, this is directly responsive to one of the consistent items in the audit management letter. So this is going to be a real plus to have an updated statement. There's nothing terribly wrong with the statement we've had on the books. It's just a little dated. So I think getting this current is something that is going to be something we'll share with our financial advisors and will put us in good stead.
So what would be the motion? Motion to adopt this policy?
Yeah, I think it would be to repeal the former policy and to adopt this policy. Is that right,
So
Mike?
that's my motion. That would be my motion.
Great.
Mike's getting some mixed delivery. He'll be back in a bit.
Do we need to be specific of any reference to it?
I think if you just
On the agenda.
what's in the
So
meeting,
reference to what's in the packet tonight. Yeah.
April 20th.
Tonight's meeting.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah. All right. So I'll second.
Discussion. If somebody could pass along to the investment committee, especially Mark, thank you, because I know, these type of things are voluntary. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of heavy mind lifting. So if somebody could do that, that would be great.
Certainly.
I'll do that. Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Parker, aye.
Kemper.
Archibald, aye.
Who is the second on that?
Rick.
Parker.
Thank you.
So just for whatever, now that we voted on it, just for whatever it's worth, it does specifically say April 2020 in the at the heading. So as long as we note that.
Okay.
And I'll
Planning
have-
board here yet?
Yes, here.
Okay, so let's go back to item F, the proposed zoning amendments.
Archie, how would you like me to go through? Would you like me to go through each section in a little bit of detail, or and then see if you have any specific questions, or would you kind of?
Right, not a lot of detail, no.
Okay,
But make sure if anybody's speaking too, that they state their name, because I don't think we know everybody's voice.
okay,
And Leah, just so you're aware, Leah, the board does have your March 9th memo and the, I believe, five-page attachment. They have that in front of them. So if you make reference to any specifics, they do have that.
great. Okay, so the first section or proposal is to amend section 5A2C regarding accessory uses permitted in the residence A, B, and C districts, including the keeping of pets and animals for use on the resident premises and professional home office and customary home occupations. So where the board is proposing to strike the section regarding the animals, because it's regulated by the Board of Health. It's not a zoning matter. The board is also proposing to add the word home between the words professional and office, because this section is related to a professional home office, and they wanted to make that clear. Also, with this section, the board wants to provide more guidance to the zoning enforcement order and zoning enforcement officer in terms of traffic associated with a home occupation or home office, just so that it states the use, so the use does not exceed that of which is normally expected in a residential neighborhood. And then, so the second grouping of proposed amendments is to see if the town will amend section 5A3 regarding uses permitted in the residence A, B, and C districts with a special permit. And these sections would modernize terms for old age homes, and also bring the section into compliance with General Law, Chapter 48, Section 3, which is exempt uses from zoning. So in terms of the exempt uses, under Part B, the board's proposing delete riding stables, because that falls under the agricultural use exemption of the law. And also there, 5A3H, currently the section talks about nursing homes, convalescent homes, old age homes, sanitarian, rehabilitation facilities, and hospitals. And actually, the board is proposing to delete convalescent homes, old age homes, and sanitariums, and to replace it with rehabilitation facilities as a more modern term. We'll reference those.
Archie, if we have questions, should we ask them as we go or wait till the end?
Yeah.
So Leah, I did have a question going back to the initial proposal on the traffic. I totally understand the spirit of that, but I have two questions. One is whether there should be, or maybe there is elsewhere in the bylaw, a reference to the ITE or some objective means of what's expected for a residential neighborhood. And then secondly, I would wonder if there should be any kind of clause saying notwithstanding routine couriers and deliveries and that kind of thing, because I believe last I think it was like 10 vehicle trip ends per house per day was basically the ITE assumption.
Mhm.
And I'd be concerned if there was if we're allowing home occupations, we ought to allow home occupations. And if, does this give standing to say, hey, they've got more FedEx trips than a residential house, and therefore it's not allowed.
Again, I think this section is to provide some guidance about something that's going beyond normal. Perhaps, Angus, are you talking that we talk a little bit more about what is considered normal, and in that we would reference ITE.
Yeah, I think I mean, and it's just a thought. I know you've already been through the public hearing on this, but where I think it's written in a way that's pretty absolute, does not exceed that which is normally expected. So the literal reading could suggest that a home-based business that's got any of deliveries or that's my only concern, and I just suggested I know in the planning world that ITE is the reference, but not hurt to put that in there, so people aren't arguing over what is normally expected.
What does ITE stand for?
This is
Institute for Traffic Engineers.
Yeah, this is Brian Murphy. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Mhm.
Perfect. Okay. I think when we came up with that wording, the idea is to leave it in the hands of the zoning officer to make the determination. I'm not opposed to changing it, but sometimes changing things with specificity takes some leeway out of what the zoning officer might determine. But I'm just offering that.
So maybe Leah, we can take this offline and see if there's an adjustment that.
Talk to a little bit more compromise.
I have the same concern that Angus has, and that is that, it might result in, disparaging treatment. What is normally expected in one neighborhood might be not normally, might be treated differently in another neighborhood. And obviously the requirement is that all zoning be uniform. So.
Yeah, without a doubt, somebody on Main Street is going to be something totally traffic flow than somebody that's on my street.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Rick Bridges. I think we kind of add that standard in there in identifying which is normally expected in a residential neighborhood. And just a reminder, the current bylaw doesn't have anything there. So it's really adding some direction, provide protection to abutters, but not going into specificity that may exclude or limit this to specific areas in town.
Leah, have you seen other examples of this type of in other zoning laws?
Actually was generated, the board had a consultant work with them several years ago, Judy Barrett.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of her recommendations. So the board pulled it out and thought about it because we don't have any.
No, I think it's a good idea, but I just, it's
I think the question was,
stuff.
I think the question was, Leah, have you seen that in any other towns, maybe, that any other zoning?
That search, no.
Say that again, Leah?
I did not do that type of search. So I don't know.
Great. I don't want to get bogged down on this one, but I'll send you a suggestion offline, Leah, because I think a minor tweak, maybe the planning board could consider, I think would be better, but we'll see.
Any questions?
Yeah, just as Rick Bridges, Brian, can your recollection, when Judy put these together, were they largely created based on what is it in existing bylaws throughout the state?
She deals with a lot of municipalities in the Commonwealth, so that'd be my expectation, how that was developed. I can't recall specifically, how she came up with that.
Okay, let's not get too bogged down on one.
Okay. One other thing, Leah, with regard to the taking out riding stables out of the special permit.
Yep.
The Section 3 exemption would only apply to those with 5 acres or more. So essentially, by taking it out, you'd be prohibiting any riding staples on a piece of land that had less than 5 acres.
So it should be riding staples.
But I mean, but the point is that if someone's exempt, they're exempt no matter what. But by keeping the riding staples in there, you at least allow an individual an opportunity to apply for a special permit if they wanted the riding staples. Because the Section 3 exemption is only good if you have 5 acres, right? The agricultural exemption.
Okay.
I mean, if you have 2 acres under cultivation, but that wouldn't apply here.
Let's take a look at the language. I know we worked on this with the last round. I just don't have it in front of me. So I'll need to look at that.
I mean, that might be an idea. You might say, well, we don't want, a riding stable to be on any piece of property that's less than 5 acres. Maybe that's a good planning, but I just want you to know that that's what
they're proposing, but I don't know if that's good planning in a town.
Okay. We'll talk about that a little bit more with the board. Should I keep going?
Okay. Yep.
All right. So now we are looking at, this is another 40A exemption part where the board's proposing to amend section 5A3J by deleting the terms nonprofit schools, kindergartens, nursery school, children's centers, and replacing them with the terms just for profit, and then you're going into for profit types of organizations. And this is because these types of facilities do have the educational exemption.
Mike?
Yeah, I mean, they do. Yeah, those nonprofit, children's centers and schools do have the advantage of the exemption.
That won't restrict any in business today? With any home-based stuff or anything like that?
No, because that's what they have. I mean, that's why they have the exemption in the zoning already.
Okay. And then the board took a look at the congregate housing provisions in the bylaw, and they wanted to clarify some and to eliminate some other unnecessary restrictions or restrictions they felt were unnecessary. So they wanted to amend the definition for congregate housing by removing the word nonprofit from the first line, because why can't for-profit entities do this? And they wanted to add the terms persons with disabilities. So congregate housing is both for elderly persons and persons with disabilities. And this is in line with the state's definition of congregate housing. And then some other parts the board was looking to address was to amend section I regarding the congregate housing. They wanted to replace the term 1/2 again because it's kind of confusing to be 100 50% when you're talking about required lot area. They wanted to delete a number of the provisions because they thought they were, a number of them were unnecessarily restricting a project, or they were actually other authorities had jurisdiction. And then we had just some discussion, Archie, at the public hearing about outdoor storage and display as an accessory use permitted in the business district. Board is looking to clarify that section to note that the type of storage this section is referring to is business-related storage, not just somebody in the business district who happens to have outdoor storage. That's related to their residents. And further, the regulation currently only requires screening for dwellings in abutting residential districts, whereas any abutting residential dwelling should be screened from outdoor business-related storage and display regardless of the zoning district. So they made that proposal as well. The board is proposing to amend section 5B2 regarding uses permitted in the business district upon a special permit granted by the planning board, to delete the section on child care centers because they fall within the educational exemption under 40A section 3. Section 5B2E, formerly section F, regarding residential units located in the same buildings as commercial enterprises. By deleting the terms provided they be in compliance with other local regulations, including Board of Health, and then by adding the terms by the planning board to the end. And other local regulations, the rationale is other local regulations such as those of the Board of Health stand in and of themselves. And then the revision also clarifies that the planning board and not another entity is the special permit granting authority reviewing visual elements, density, and parking. The board spent a lot of time on amending or proposing to amend the zoning bylaw sections regarding properties having rooms for rent. The proposal would consolidate and clarify terms used to describe properties having room for rent and define the terms of stay for long-term and short-term rental properties, because right now that's not exactly clear. So the first piece of this is to revise the definition of bed and breakfast by changing the duration of stay from 15 days to less than 14 consecutive nights. And this brings that section in line with what the short-term rental bylaw says. The board wanted to add a new definition of a short-term paying guest, and this is kind of whenever it's referred to, you know, the person is staying less than 14 consecutive nights. So,
Hey, Leah, can I just ask a question there?
yeah, please do.
And this seems, maybe it's trivial, but be less than 14 consecutive nights. So that means 13 consecutive nights is the max. That actually, doesn't that actually reduce the maximum stay by a day or by a night? So if what was meant before when it said and exceed 15 days, didn't say consecutive, but 15 days would have been, if 15 consecutive days would have encompassed 14 nights.
Yeah.
And now it says it has to be less than 14 consecutive nights. So it effectively reduces it by by one night. I don't know if that's the intent or not, but
The intent really was to bring it in line with the general bylaw for short-term rentals.
I might add, this is Brian Murphy. Rick, that's on the town bylaws to get the language in sync
okay.
with what was in the bylaw. And that, so yeah, whether we all agree, it should be, you have a good point, but that's why it says less than 14 nights.
Okay, all right, great. Thanks, Brian.
So-
That makes sense.
So I'll move on to the definition of boarding house. The board proposed a bit of a tweak to clarify that the boarding house is only allowed by right in a residential district as an accessory use, and that the primary use must be a dwelling. And we just proposed to add a definition, the definition content from another section regarding the number of persons. And also, it was kind of repetitive. And so the board wanted to not be redundant and delete that last part. So in terms of the definition of hotel, hotel seems to be the guiding word for all these terms that are used in the zoning bylaw, such as inn, motel, tourist home, or lodging house. When you look at the definitions for inn, motel, tourist home, or lodging house, they all refer to the definition of hotel. So the board is proposing to just remove all those other references and use that one word everywhere those other words occur. We also wanted to put the word in short-term paying guests, so there's definition as to what the length of stay is, that, you know, so we know what a hotel qualifies for. So anything else of substance? I don't think so. All the other pieces were to bring the words in line with hotel and boarding house. Those were the two terms, hotel for the short-term stays and then boarding house for the longer-term stays. And that's it.
Anyone have any comments on further comments on these? Do we want to vote on this article or wait till?
Yeah, I'd like to wait.
Okay.
Angus wants to try to work out a few things with them, so I'd like to wait until we see it after it's worked out. Excuse me.
Okay. I agree.
But in principle, it sounds, you know, good.
Right. I don't have any particular problems with any of these.
Okay, what's next? Thank you, planning board.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Sounds good.
Thanks. Stay safe. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Leah. I'll let you know, Leah, once we know when a recommendation will be made. I'll let you know ahead of time.
Okay, thanks.
Let's see. Let's go back to item C. Angus can fill us in, but let's just in general think that I mean we formulated the budget before all the shutdowns and things have occurred, and so I think there's going to be a lot of financial issues going forward. That even if the economy gets back to normal in the middle of the summer or something, I'm not necessarily sure. Nobody knows, but some people may be out. A lot of people may continue to be out of work. Businesses may be shut down. So I think we have to go back to our history of what happened in 2009, and I think that certain things that maybe were icing on the cake we put into the budget, we may have to revisit those. And I think our revenues are going to be down, maybe even significantly. So I think that I think we have to revisit some things. So I sent Angus a list of some of the warrant articles that I thought we should revisit. But another thing I thought of in terms of some of the things in just the operating budget, we put in for a cost of living raise. Well, I don't know if that's going to be appropriate in a time where we might end up with 25% unemployment. Who knows? But I mean, that's something that I think we ought to revisit. So with that, I'll let Angus talk.
Okay, so I did, I have the budget summary sheet updated. So the first 2 pages, I'm still going through all the cells. There's a lot, embedded behind that, and then even further behind that, because the detailed line item budget with all of the breakdown is in a lot of cases linked to backup worksheets where the calculations are made. So it's a pretty intricate process, but I did get the summary sheet updated. And what I'm going to do now, which I have not done in one of these before, so I hope it works, is I'm going to share my screen. And so you can tell me if this comes through. So you should be able to see my screen. Is that coming through?
Yeah.
Good. Great. Okay. So if we want to switch back to seeing people's faces, just say the word and I can pull this down. But I wanted to just talk through, I'm not going to go through the full line item behind this, but these are all the top line numbers, and I've highlighted in green just those 3 areas that have changed since this was initially presented to the board. Gosh, I lose track of time, but I want to say sometime in February. So this does not yet reflect the FinCom recommendations. So there are a couple of numbers that are a little different, which I think I largely can remember, but I haven't made all those changes. But basically, in terms of the top line, and so I'll direct you to this FY21 Town Manager Proposed column. Basically, you can see, moderator is unchanged. I always, just like last year, the Town Manager, Finance Department, and Board of Selectmen line are somewhat fungible. So there's some interplay between those 3 sections of the budget. So in the detailed budget that you received, that was integrated with a bottom line increase. So obviously you're seeing here an enormous proportional increase in the Selectmen budget. That's partially offset by reductions elsewhere. That's primarily because a staff person that this year is paid out of the Finance Department is proposed to be paid out of the Selectmen. That's the Resident Services Administrator. So that's
Wants to make us bad.
So that's the major dynamic there. Finance Committee, this is proposed. They did their proposed number is $500 more. They wanted to allow a little more to accommodate additional printing costs. The assessor's budget, there is a more significant change there, and that's partially, actually, it's largely driven by both contractual increases with different software, but also, and you'll recall this, there was the flyover for the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. That was a commitment we needed to make last summer. And so rather than bring that forward as a separate article, I had proposed to the FinCom that cost of that flyover be carried in the assessor's budget, even though I would be the first to acknowledge that data is used by many departments within the town. Because the assessor is also the GIS coordinator in terms of the job description, I thought it was appropriate to carry that cost there. So that's part of what you see here with the $10,000 increase. Special counsel, this is one that I do think we ought to be looking at closer. Back when I prepared the budget, I was looking for areas to trim, and you can see year to date is fairly, modest, and, especially for the board, the amount of work we've gotten. And so the billing, I think, has been really reasonable. So I thought back when I prepared this, we could trim this off. I do want to make sure you understand within this budget this carries the $3,000 that historically had been in the town clerk, town council's budget. So the amount earmarked for outside counsel is the amount minus 3,000. And so I brought that down in light of some recent things, including some recent discussions. There may be need.
Angus, can I just ask about that? So does the 3,800 there, that's a pretty up-to-date year billing?
That's back, actually, as I look at it, that's back to February 20th. And although actually, you know what, I'm certain I updated it since then.
It seems
Yeah.
very reasonable because we've had a lot of.
Yes. That number seems low to me.
Yeah, no, the billing's been, it's been very, of course, I keep track when we have phone calls because, they're billing by the minute. So, but no, the billing's been very tight. And but anyhow, with that said, I think, if looking to FY21, if the board, I would definitely suggest you kind of think about any kind of special projects or things where we might need outside assistance and whether we think this number is good. So I'll leave it there. Within the town clerk, town council budget, you're aware that carries the COLA as well as a pay adjustment, which we think better reflects the.
Can we go back to the outside counsel?
Yeah.
I think it needs to be more than last year.
I think that, and I don't want to, as all of the board members know, there was a recent discussion where we got an estimate of what it would cost to go further on a particular issue. And so those are the things I think that if we want to do that, I think we ought to carry some funding for that. It may also be, it's not mutually exclusive. You do have within the Selectmen's operating budget, you do have an expense line. And some of that goes to, so there's some, it's not like special counsel is the only line we can hit for legal, but anyhow, I think that's something we ought to look at. And also, obviously, we've gotten a ton of, I think, high value advice that's basically free because it's part of, what they send to all of their clients. So that's kind of nice. So far, we haven't had occasion to consult with them on any COVID related issues, but.
Can you zoom in on that just a little bit more? Can you just zoom that page a little bit more? I'm having a little trouble reading it on my screen.
Oh yeah, of course.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's much better. That's much better.
That's much better. Okay. So moving right along, town clerk, town council, board of registrars. There's a little bit of an increase where it's a presidential election year. The planning board is basically level with the COLA. Board of Appeals, I think you'll recall, we did change, I am proposing to change where and how the admin position is funded instead of a stipend. That's now embedded in the pay rate for the inspectional services.
Angus,
down
in
here.
light of our new 40B application, should we think, what do you think about that?
I think we should. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of where we are with the personnel because, right now the job doesn't explicitly call for time above those scheduled office hours. But I think that we ought to think about the level of service we want to provide to the residents and how we can ensure that that work and the type of things I'm referring to are, as correspondence comes in, scanning it, posting it to a website. As we get, if we get into permitting, I think the neighbors are going to reasonably expect, quick access to information. So if we don't want my department to get bogged down in that, we are going to want to make sure that we've got, I think we've got a good structure with what's proposed. But I think, we can take that offline, Archie. I think I'm pretty comfortable with what we've proposed, but I think it's worth, basically what I'm alluding to is like meeting attendance. Right now, we don't have any budget for meeting attendance above hours, but I also don't know that we have a personnel who's interested in that. So, and if Sam, if our building inspector attends a ZBA meeting, he's, an exempt employee, so that's not going to carry a incremental cost. Let's see, moving down to Concom, this is highlighted in green because it's different than what you saw originally. I did adjust that number down based on the direction the board gave at a meeting a couple of meetings ago. So it does carry the additional 2 hours a week for the land agent, but at the rate of just the COLA rate, not the higher rate of increase that was in the initial proposed budget. Police department.
Can I talk about that a little bit?
Of course.
This is a new initiative, obviously. So, is there any way we can, I don't know, in the budget or maybe a sidebar? I like to have this as a reviewed, and maybe on a quarterly basis to see if what's going on with those 2 hours, to see if, you know what I mean? This is a whole new project that I really haven't wrapped my head around, and I don't understand enough about it. So I'm willing to do the 2 hours, but I want to see what we're getting for those 2 hours. I just don't want them to be built in there and then we just forget about it, and then 3 or 4 years down the road, nobody really knows what's going on. I want those hours to be definitely designated to this particular task.
Mm-hmm.
That's my only.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And in the line item, which, yeah, it is.
I don't want it to get molded into.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden we don't know where it is, and 2 or 3 years down the road that we're adding hours to that, but then we don't know.
Getting done. Yeah.
And we did, as you know from the last discussion a month ago, was the line item does carry that 2 hours separately, so it's very clear to the voter that that's an incremental cost. And so I think, Glenn, you're absolutely right that there needs to be, and I think there's been good documentation of what would be expected to come from that, but what you're talking about of ongoing monitoring. Makes a lot of sense.
Like a report quarterly, exactly, what happened.
Right.
For, for quarterly, like we get from other departments, about stuff. You know what I mean? Like overtime, we get something from the police, like when we get an overtime thing. Hey, this is what it was spent on and this is why. And I would like, this is a new initiative. Maybe they could convince me that next year we need to have 5 hours a week. I'm not looking to approve the idea. I just want to understand it and just not throw it into a budget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
With police, the reason this is shaded in green is to highlight that this is different from what you've seen previously. This reflects the board's direction at the last meeting to carry a different percentage increase on the wage and to reduce the overtime from the proposed roughly 61,000 down to about 50,000. I would like to see future agenda. I would like to see Chief Duran's presenting that, and so we can really look at that number, make sure that we've got, including that's an area with, you know, certainly potential costs resulting from COVID-19. You know, if in terms of contingency planning, if someone was to go out or some number of officers were to go out, that could have implications for overtime, certainly. Fire is essentially a level funded budget proposal. Sorry, I've got to move this so I can see my screen better. Inspectional services, the main change there I talked about was just it carries now some of the staffing, or it carries the staffing costs for the ZBA. Animal control, that's based on the anticipated continued agreement with Newbury Port. They've agreed on that number.
Hey, on that, I probably should know the answer to this. Do we get a report, or does somebody get a report? Does he give a monthly report about how many calls he's gone to and anything like that?
I don't know the answer to that. If so, it goes to the chief, but I don't know if we do or if we don't.
We did in the past, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. If we do, it wouldn't be such a bad thing as we could get one also.
Sure, yeah, we're happy to.
I mean, nothing big, just to have that in our office on the file. So,
right, and you know,
so we can get to it.
It's probably a good chance the officer is providing that for their own supervisor. So it would be, yeah, they'd be happy to do that. We can get that.
Okay.
Let's see, the DPW, there's some pretty significant increase there in terms of dollars, but that the FinCom did recommend this number as proposed. They did go through with the director in detail, and as you might imagine with our finance committee, their starting point was very skeptical, but they did end up unanimously, or I believe actually there was one dissenting vote because, oh yeah, I want to make sure you understand this does carry an additional $12,000 for cleaning of the library. And it was for that reason that one member of FinCom did dissent this budget, because he did not feel that we should be paying that additional cleaning cost. So that was
and I want to say, and I'm just going to make sure that everybody, because I know how you feel about it. When you say skeptical, that's in a positive way, not in a negative way.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a good thing.
Board of Health is definitely a budget driver, but we all know why. You know, it's some of the end of the hauling contract, the increase in tipping fees for solid waste, the increase in recycling costs, which has proven significant and somewhat difficult to predict. And also on top of that, you have additional monitoring costs for the landfill resulting from the DEP post-closure monitoring plan. And so, you know, voters will definitely see that 17% and see that as a significant increase. But you know, all of
as long as they're there.
Yeah, they're real costs, so we have to pay them.
Angus, does this reflect what Blake just told us, or is there another 20 on top of that?
No, that was the thing. No, the Board of Health, their discussions with Mello is to keep the same pricing for FY21 that had been proposed for the automated, but to keep that pricing for
which was lower than the other. Yeah. But
right.
That's definitely a 17%. Traditionally, that would be a hold, just because of the percentage. So just make sure they have all their. I mean, it's all valid, but just make sure they're ready to answer the questions.
You're exactly right.
There's nothing we can do about it. Yeah.
And that landfill monitoring needs to be in the budget. This is something that hasn't been. This has been whatever. But, okay.
Yeah.
But we don't
Yeah.
have an alternative on that
It's-
anyway.
It's become very regimented in terms of the frequency of testing. And of course, depending on how the tests go, if you get certain results, you have to maybe do more testing. So, and we're under mandate, so we need to make sure we got the funding to comply with those requirements. The Council on Aging, the primary cost driver there is a couple of proposed wage adjustments above COLA for the support staff, the van driver, the program coordinator. So I know, we may circle back on some of these in terms of with COVID-19, where that all stands, but in terms of the numbers that's in.
Can I ask a question? Why would we circle back on that because of COVID-19?
I don't know. I just want to
know because, we're going to give them a raise because we looked at the amount of money and we felt that they need more next year, July 1st, starting July 1st. Why would we circle back because of something that happened this fiscal year?
So my question to Archie, and we haven't had the chance to talk it over, was he had suggested, as he did a few minutes ago, should we look at zeroing out COLA? And that's fine. And I ran the numbers. If the board did do that, I know roughly what that would save. But I didn't know in terms of some of the non-COLA adjustments that have been discussed.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So.
But why, do we feel that our revenue will be down?
In terms of tax revenue, no. And, I want to sound callous, but.
Like,
we don't have a lot of sales revenue. We don't have a lot of revenue that's going to be down.
People aren't going to be buying new cars.
Excise is going to be the main one. In my view, excise and state aid are the two areas that I think we're going to see reduced revenues.
Well, see, that's a great point, I guess, because I didn't even think about state aid. I just assumed. But, okay.
Well,
everybody will be buying cars. I think we're going to have it. Because remember, aren't we a year behind anyway? On the SX tax and all that kind of stuff? Right. Sorry. Next.
So let's see. Library, the main change there was the addition of the hour-a-week position. That was added. It was not initially part of the proposed budget, but the board did vote to recommend that 6 or 8 weeks ago. It shows as a small percentage increase just because of some other adjustments in the wage structure over at the library, but there is a new position within that, a new 10-hour-a-week position. Recreation, we've really put in quite a lot of time.
Can I go back on that? I want to go back on that. I want to make sure that's a new position and not hours given to existing personnel, because that's how it was presented to us.
That is exactly how it was presented, and it's been represented to me by the director that, well, just like you heard, their whole point is that they have people that don't want to work those extra hours and are having to now because
I just want to make sure of that.
Right. Yeah, no changes. Historical did put in for a increase from $500 to $1,000. I didn't include the 1,000. I included 600. And my main thinking is that, the rationale for their proposed increase was if they want to do more mailings or things. And I thought that if it's something like the historic property inventory, that's a CPA funded project. So there's, a mailing could potentially be funded out of those administrative funds. But I also said to the commission that, if they end up in a pinch and they want to do a mailing or something like that, that I'm pretty confident that whether within the selectmen's expenses or the town manager expenses, that if it's a matter of a couple of $100, toward the end of the year, I thought we could, we wouldn't leave them hanging in terms of something like that.
Is there any way, I keep on hearing, not keep on hearing, but a few times tonight, that we want more money for printing, mailings. Is there any way we can start getting away from this and start doing it electronically?
There is.
For a host
of
reasons.
Like the Council on Aging newsletters, all of those things, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean-
I absolutely think so. Yeah, lots of towns do that, and you guys have heard me talk for a long time about a town manager newsletter, and I think now that our staffing situation has not only stabilized, but really, we've got some real horsepower in my office in terms of, writing and communications, and so I do think that we're, before this whole setback, I think we're getting to where we're within reach of being able to do some newsletters, and I think electronically, we've got all the data with people subscribing for the website updates. And I think there's a way to leverage that, some outreach, get people to subscribe, and then do more electronically. With that said, and actually, Rick, I'd be interested in your thoughts on that. I did hear from one of the attendees at the recent MVP Saturday workshop that there was some criticism or some critique that perhaps the town office relies too much on electronic communication. So I'm certainly interested in hearing that. Rick, is that something that you heard?
Okay. Well, that may have been said at another table. I didn't hear that.
I didn't hear that either.
Okay.
How could we?
Broke
That's
out
ridiculous.
that might not get another group.
So heading down the line, debt service is what it is, retirement, unemployment. I skipped over education. The reason that's highlighted in green is because, as you know, from a few weeks ago, or actually, I'm sorry, just last week, we got official confirmation of the Whittier Tech budget, which was even lower. We knew it was going to go down by a significant amount, and it went down even further than that. So this is an updated number here.
Right.
And then down here, I guess this is all pretty straightforward. There are some additional insurance costs that are, let's see, I'm trying to remember why those, what was driving those.
It doesn't matter. I mean.
Yeah,
I guess-
yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
it
I
is
know.
what it is.
Yeah, so on the property, yeah, it's,
Angus, a couple of buildings that weren't on there before, I believe.
yeah, there
Like
was
the
that.
Legion.
Yeah, that one building, and then there was they told us 7 to 8% on property and casualty, or 7 to 9%. So we're carrying different amounts for that. So that's it.
Okay.
Kind of the top line. Obviously, this doesn't get into all the backup, but you've seen
No,
that.
but that's a good review of it.
So
Do you see anything that we need to spend a lot of time on, or, you know what I mean, in
Well-
future meetings? Do you see anything, you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I do think that the whole issue that Archie raised is something that absolutely warrants some real consideration. I would definitely suggest, if you do make a change, like, whether zeroing out COLA or relooking at any of the non-COLA, either wage or position changes. The only position change is the library one, but there are some other wage changes. If you are going to look at that or put that on the table, I would definitely like to see any vote taken at a future, perhaps like at the next meeting. I don't want to drag it out, but I do want to make sure that, I don't want it to be one of these things.
If we really feel that our revenues are going to be down, if we really honestly feel that way, then I think we should just then do COLAs across the board and not anything like exceed COLAs. And I'm not recommending that tonight. I'm just saying if we really have that fear, I would do that. But
I will say,
I couldn't hear Glenn then.
I said, can you hear me now, Archie?
Yeah.
I said if we really do have a fear that our revenues are not be able to meet our projections, that I would still do COLAs across the board, but then anything that's more than a COLA, then it's pretty hard to justify that. Or new positions.
so,
And then we can maybe revisit it, I don't know, or keep everything the same way and then revisit it when we really know something at our fall town meeting, because we're pretty lean as it is, don't you think? Anybody there? Did I lose everybody?
No, we're here.
I don't know how you rescind a COLA at fall town meeting.
No, I'm talking about supplement it maybe with free cash, and our justification would be, if we find out, our justification would be that, you know, our revenue projections fell short, one-time type of thing because of COVID-19.
Well, another thing is that if we don't say we're not able to have not able to have a town meeting until after July 1st, we need to use that free cash just to run the town, because we won't have voted the budget. We'll just have a 1/12 budget. It's the way Congress does it. But we'll only be able to use free cash to do that.
We're going to have a town meeting, Archie. Mark my words. This is going to be over soon. The next 2 weeks is the biggest. We're supposed to be spiking. We'll know better. We'll know better at our next meeting to make really good decisions, I think, because with all the analysis that the governor is giving and the officials, this next 2 weeks is when it's all supposed to spike in Massachusetts. And if it really doesn't spike as much as they think, then the curve is starting to get a little bit, the spike is starting to get a little bit rounded. And I think, we can start trying to get back to some type of normalcy. But I think we should make those type of decisions at our next meeting.
Because I wouldn't project that, so.
Those are all ifs, Rick.
Yeah.
I did run a quick
a
analysis.
I have a much more gloomy financial feeling. That's just my.
Yeah, but see, I mean, other than, people like me who have no income coming in, right? Because all my businesses are closed down. But
I have no
West Newbury, you. There are a lot of people in West Newbury that are getting paid. A lot. I'm not saying everybody has hardships. I understand that. So, whatever. We'll see. And don't we have a good amount of new growth with the stuff behind the Legion this year that might help us out, Angus?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
we do.
we take that into consideration too. So, people don't want new buildings, but there is a benefit in the sense that there are some new tax revenue.
I did run just a quick math on the COLA, and if you leave aside the contractual increases and just deal with the non-contractual employees, 2% COLA is just about 30,000, a little bit more, maybe 32,000 for the year.
Come on. See, that's what I mean, and that money means a lot more to them. It's not a significant amount of money. It never is, because remember, we have a bunch of contractual people. Is there anything out there? What happened? We've been paying everybody along, right, in good faith. What happens if somebody doesn't want to come back to work after we've asked them to come back to work? Can we get their money back? Probably not, right? That was a question that was asked of me.
I don't think you can get somebody's money back.
Yeah, I think there's no takebacks.
No, it was kind of a rhetorical question, but I had to ask it. I had to ask because I'm thinking of that myself. Because I'm trying to pay my employees and paying them. Then I'm thinking, somebody said, "What if they don't never come back and you paid them the whole time?"
Yeah, I mean, if someone was about to give their notice on March 10th and they decide to wait till Monday, and then
happy birthday. Okay, anything else on the budget? I'm sorry, I'm the one who drew it out. Sorry about that.
Well, I do think that it's, I'm happy to put together, and I put together for myself just some quick bullet points on, just a list of all of the, wage adjustments other than COLA. If you want to take a look at that, I'm happy to work that up. But in terms of bigger picture cost savings, it is, without looking at reductions in level of service, it's hard to see where the savings would come from.
Exactly. We're pretty big. When I made my, we're pretty lean. No, I have a question though, real quick, about Archie's, gloomier idea of the financial things. When do we find out? So, we're hitting it on the other side, the spending side. When do we start seeing the trends, if the trends were or the projections were what we thought they were going to be, and they're more dire or something? I don't even know that answer. When do we start seeing that?
17 million new people filed for unemployment in the last 3 weeks. That's in the country. 17 million just in 3 weeks.
I'm talking. No, I got that, Archie.
Yeah.
But we have to deal with West Newbury. I'm talking about our revenue. So when do we start seeing, like, none of us see any downtick in our property taxes or our water bills or anything like that. I think the only thing would be probably the discretionary spending, which would then be your excise tax. Somebody buying a new car and not doing that and keeping the older one for a couple of years. Okay, so but when do we realize those revenue shortfalls so then we can properly plan a budget, or do we not and we just have to guess?
I think,
that's a legitimate question.
it's a great question, Glenn. I think the thing to do would be, I can update these year-to-date revenue numbers. That does not take long at all, and send those around in terms of where we're trending year-to-date. We don't really know until June 30th, because just because someone hasn't paid their excise doesn't mean they're not going to pay it. But it certainly, that's the best indicator that we would have. And, I
think we're going to hit, see, my personal opinion, Archie, everybody's bought their cars already, or whatever, maybe a boat or whatever, motorcycle. I think we're going to see it next year, because they didn't do it now. Because now when it all ended, then they reevaluated their own personal financial situation, and then the purchases are not going to be made next year.
So
that's my own personal opinion.
Just if I can put a little scale on what we're talking about here. So the excise, our FY19 revenue is just about 807,000. We've estimated 810 for the fiscal year and for the next fiscal year. So, that's a fair amount of money. The other area that things could fall off is on the
permits.
The permits. That represents in the current fiscal year about 220,000. Well, exactly 220,000. In FY19, generated more than that, more like 250. But we felt that was too aggressive to project that, so we projected 230. So between those two, you're talking about over $1 million projected revenue just in those two categories.
But I wouldn't mind to see what year to date on
could be. Yeah. Well, I'll run a updated year to date and send those around. That's no trouble. That's actually,
especially those permits. Yeah. But those permits too could be skewed because of the thing behind the Legion.
That's probably a lot.
Yeah. Okay. What's next? I'm starting to. I got a bad knee.
Archie had talked about the articles being. There's definitely some articles with some discretionary things that.
Okay. Let me say this and give you my gloom and doom, and so we want to have, as much as the FinCom disagrees with it, we really can say it's good that we have some free cash, that we didn't stock it all away.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
And we may need it. And so a few, I think, easy pickings are on articles that I think that we don't
Need?
We don't necessarily, I think, Angus, thinks we could, instead of like taking them off the warrant because it changes the numbers and stuff, maybe if we don't want to do it, we could just defer them and say, take no action on town meeting. But one of them, for example, the two things that we put money in, the pension, the OPEB and the pension stabilization, that's like icing on the cake. That's something that we're doing voluntarily. I don't think we need.
How much money was that, Archie?
Well, the pension one is 10% of our Essex County contribution, so it's about 68,000. So,
okay. And the other one was like 9 or something.
What's that?
And there was another one, right? That was.
The other one is only 5. I knocked it
5.
down to
Yeah,
5.
Yeah.
But
Okay, I would agree. I would agree with that, Archie.
I think we should save immediately.
Yeah, I would agree. And then, but with the understanding that we did it because we were being cautious, and then if we didn't need to be cautious next year, we'll maybe double it next year. Then, do you know what I mean? I don't mind.
We're putting money in the pension thing more.
I know.
More than what we even need to. I mean, how many towns are that rigorous?
We're the only one.
I don't think we're being.
Are you talking about pension or OPEB?
Both of them.
Okay, but the OPEB was minimal, right?
Right.
$5,000.
$5,000.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just trying to make sure I understand all the reasoning. So
the other one is 68,000.
yeah.
So you're looking at $73,000. I have no problem with that, Archie. It's a good thing to be cautious. Something that we really don't need to do. We were doing it because we had extra money, but now we might need that money for something else.
Right. And okay, here's the other one, and this one you probably would disagree with me, but from what we've heard from our neighboring community, which will not be named, we may not get into an agreement over a bridge. So do we think that's going to happen next year? And if not, I don't want to put that 300,000 in stabilization that we then can't tap it.
Okay, so I would agree that we would need a very good discussion that would begin in executive session next meeting and then end in open session on that topic.
Clearly, if we don't do that, then we potentially sacrifice the Mass Works money.
No, hear me out. We have the 300,000 in mind to use it, but we don't put it.
But we just don't pigeonhole it. We just don't pigeonhole it in stabilization.
We can't tap if we don't.
Okay. So we still have the money. We just don't sign the care. We just don't.
I would feel more comfortable talking about this in executive session, about the contract and the memorandum of understanding and all, and where we are with that. That would be that's suitable for executive session, and I would prefer it to be there if we wouldn't mind.
I don't know if that's why is the reason for that? We have to have
a contract because it's a contract, and I want to negotiate the terms of that contract with them. And then I don't disagree with anything that you just said, Archie.
No, I know. I just want to make sure that is that appropriate for executive session?
If it is, it is. And you determine that. If it is, it is. And if it's not, then we talk about it next meeting. And I need a little bit more. Then I can meet with Angus or whomever to get some more backup on it. Because what you said at the beginning, I didn't realize. I thought we were going snail's pace, but I thought we were at least moving forward at snail's pace. But if we're not moving forward and we're not even going to move forward in the snail's pace next year, then I like to be briefed on that.
I would support Glenn's suggestion. I think this item definitely warrants some, some discussion with all the facts.
Okay,
I haven't disagreed with anything you've said so far, Archie. I think you're right on. It's a good cautious approach.
okay.
But I would like to see some year-to-date numbers on our revenues too.
Well, the other thing is, we just voted an extension on everything, so people aren't gonna, people are gonna
Yeah,
pay.
but it is what it is, Archie.
What's
It
that?
is what I mean. It is what it is. It's good to see. I mean, just at least see something. What was I going to say?
Archie,
Oh, I'm sorry. One thing I wanted to say too was just in that brief, and I would like to see, I want to see maybe year to date on our budget. Is there any savings that we can do here because of things being closed and not monitored and money not being spent, or is that money still going to be spent? I don't know. But just to go back on the budget and the projections of that revenue, it looked like Angus too, which I'm happy about, was very conservative with those revenue projections. So it seems like everything he said was down even over the previous years. So that's nice to hear, rather than we weren't looking for.
That's true. Yeah.
I like that. Okay, I'm done with the budget. If anybody else is, this is the articles. But okay, I agree with all that.
so,
So I'd make a motion. I'd make a motion. I don't even know if it's appropriate. I'd make a motion that we pull those articles for the retirement, or if you want to keep them in, that I would make a motion to vote no action. But I don't think you can do that until town meeting floor, anyways, right?
Angus, you explained why you didn't want to change the numbers.
it's really not a big, we can do, whatever's the will of the board. It does, adjust some numbering, does create a ripple effect in terms of, work on
To print everything over.
the FinCom booklet.
Then forget it then.
Well, but would you, I talked to Gary today. We'll connect with Forbes tomorrow. I think, maybe we could, and I did tell them both that, I think I knew there might be some changes tonight. I thought maybe as late as the next meeting, there might still be changes. We definitely have to get to a point where things stop moving, because there is a lot of work, as you know, that goes into the booklet. And even though town meeting,
We're making it smaller.
So, I think, I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
So just so everyone, so Glenn, you're referring to Article 6 and Article 7 on the annual town meeting warrant. Archie, do you want to go through the articles more methodically, or do you want to just jump around like this? Either way is fine.
I thought we already went through everything.
We went through most of them already. What about, well, we didn't come to a final thing on the really contentious park benches. So what are we going to do there?
No.
Is that a motion, Glenn?
Yes.
Oh, I couldn't hear Glenn.
So
No.
you're saying no on the park benches. So,
Hey, listen, if we're taking money out of retirement, I think we can skip some park benches for a year. And I would actually, now that you think about it, is there anything else that, we could push off another year without costing the town too much money? Dump trucks or anything like that? I mean,
I already asked about the dump truck.
okay.
Well, let's talk
Thank
about
you.
that for a second then. It's, so if we don't replace it, what's the level of confidence that the current dump truck isn't gonna meet its end in the next year, or, fail and not be repairable? And I mean, I'm open to that. I want to really think about, what is the downside? What's the risk?
I would agree with that, Rick. I'm just saying, I don't even know if it's a good idea. I'm just saying that maybe we need to go back to everybody and say, because of these conditions, we want to try to save some money because of the unknown.
Yeah.
That make sure you're sharpening your pencils. And if they come back and say, guys, listen, I've already squeezed 2 extra years out of it. This is all hypothetical. We've already squeezed 2 extra years out of this dump truck or that widget. It's only going to cost us another $75,000 next year because the prices are going to go up. I don't know. Or maybe we're going to get a better price because nobody's buying dump trucks. I don't know. But I would just ask everybody to go back and say, this is all necessity stuff. Necessity, necessity, necessity.
So on that one, what I would suggest is, we could have Wayne come in do a presentation. He did present it in detail to the FinCom, and their starting point was very skeptical. They did end up recommending the dump truck unanimously because they were persuaded that based on the level of rust in the current truck, there is a real concern that it might not make it through next season. And
I don't think we need to do that. I don't think we need to do that, Angus. I would feel very comfortable if you just make sure that you send this, it's not a vote-on message, but a message like, hey guys, ladies, this is all need stuff based. There's no need to come in. And if they come back and say, and you feel you have a level of confidence that it's, without a doubt, we need it, I'm comfortable with that. We don't need to have everybody come back in.
We have to take their.
I mean, there's some micromanaging this as a selectman. This is why we have you in this. I mean, I would feel very comfortable. It's just, and he sent an email out that this is the message from the selectman because we could be facing some dire revenue situations. We're not telling you not to, just make sure, and you're not going to be chastised for it either. I mean, it is what it is. We've got to stand behind it and move forward.
What about? I mean, there were a couple of other fire and police things that I thought were kind of small. I didn't think they were worth fighting about, like police radios and stuff. I felt we need those.
Supposedly everybody's gone to another band or something. I don't know. We need those. That's a safety. It was presented to me, or at least I remember correctly, that was more of a safety issue, that we definitely need those. That's all we need to do is something happen, because we cut some 15 grand out of we had $2 million in free cash. We cut 50 grand out, and then something happens.
That's why I kind of focused on the truck. That's a big chunk of money, and if we could get another year out of it, I'd go for it. But just
it is what it is.
Back to
have them look at it.
We really need it. If not, we'll keep it. I mean, if we do, we keep it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else?
No.
I had a big limb come down on my house this afternoon, and I was out there, and I tweaked my knee, and it's killing me. So I'm going to go put it up if that's okay. Anything else you need from me on this meeting?
We did need we need a decision on the electric vehicle charging stations. The number in the warrant is for the base amount. Rick has been working with the prospective contractor and gotten some quotes to include a couple of years of maintenance. Do you want to, Rick, speak to that, if you recommend that or not? And if so, the additional.
So I haven't heard back. I've reached out to 3 other communities who I know have charging stations. I'm trying to get some reliability or maintenance related info.
Hey, could this be something we could put off until fall town meeting?
Well,
or are we going to lose that funding?
Yeah, we would lose that funding.
But what about the maintenance? Can we deal with that later?
Or does that have to be part of the whole package?
No, I bet that we could deal with that later.
That would be my feeling.
Mine too.
Okay, so presumably I'll hear back. I'm waiting to hear back from 4 different people at this point, and I'm good with that. I would like to try to still follow through on the questions, that I put out there. And if we can put off on the maintenance, at this point, they've essentially extended out to, what was it? I think it was October 1st they gave us.
Yep, that's right. Yep. To get it built. Yep.
So, Rick, have you been hearing anything because of the COVID-19, all the funding and all the grants or whatever you want to call them? Any of that going to be delayed? Is everything still?
I have not heard that, Glenn. I
Okay,
think
good.
money is already in the bank for them. You know,
Okay.
I think they have a pot of money and they need to spend it.
Okay. Is that it? Is that it on those? Anything else?
I have nothing else.
Okay, let's bang out the meetings and then you can go, Glenn.
Make a motion. Oh, okay. I don't have that.
I got them.
Thank
I
you.
make a motion to approve the minutes of April 7th, 2020, March 3rd, 2020, March 25th, 2020, March 4th, 2019, and January 7th, 2019.
Second, Kemper.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay.
And Rick, I think there were one or two of those that you weren't present for, so we can make the adjustment on.
Oh, that's right. The March 4th. Yeah, I was sort of processing that. So yeah, the March 4th, 2019.
The oldest two, yeah.
I was.
Hey, Jenny.
Yeah, you were just a civilian back then, Rick.
Yeah.
You lived the normal life, yeah.
This was, this particular series of this particular sequence that's going on right now with COVID-19 was definitely not anything I anticipated.
That wasn't in your campaign literature? Okay, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Is that okay?
Pandemic because it was before they knew it was a pandemic.
Archie, did you want to just say a word about the Coffin Street and just so briefly we're working that we had a
Do
constructive.
you want me to talk about the meeting that I had with the high school too a little bit?
If there's something that you think is notable, by all means. But just on the Coffin Street, I think everybody who follows this already knows this, but since it's on the agenda, I just want to say, so I thought that Thursdays, we got some good information out there. I think we got some good feedback from people about, where we are in the process and that we've got, a finite amount of time, but we're going to use it well. And people are really looking at this closely, department heads, boards and commissions, and the public. But the main thing I wanted to say is we are working on a frequently asked questions section. Jenny has been calling through all of the questions, and she actually sent me the first draft late afternoon, and we've got our work cut out for it. There's many dozens of questions, but we'll put that together, and we're going to get something on the web by the end of the week. If it's incomplete, we'll note that. We may not get to everything in the next couple of work days, but we'll do what we can, and we'll just keep updating that on a current basis. So people just need to keep an eye on the website, and we've also said that if people want to receive specific notice when we get updates, just send an email to me or to the selectmen, and we'll make sure that you get that. But it seems like people are pretty well organized, and the information's getting out.
I've only heard
Angus, one question. So what about the call and the walkthrough with Mass Housing? What's happening with that?
So the site walk, I did correspond with the developer. He said he's happy if we get him some dates to just meet us and walk. They would like to be present for the walk. We do need to be cautious about obviously social distancing, and so Mike, I think you advised that a site walk does not count as a public meeting, just so long as there's no deliberation. I do think while we have had some neighbors ask for notice of when that will take place, I think we need to be cautious. We're not trying to hide anything from anybody, but if we publicize a site walk and we have people show up, that's a real problem. So maybe we say.
What does Mass Housing? Well, what does Mass Housing recommend for that?
Well, they've already, normally in the normal course of things, their site walk, they would have invited us to join them. We all would have walked it together. They've already done.
But I'm talking about, they've already done that walk?
their site walk they did last week.
Oh,
They specifically said that because they're under directive at their agency to not coordinate that with the local boards because of the COVID-19. So the conference call is a separate thing, and we can schedule that. If
Now,
there is
do they write up something? Do they write up something after that walk? Do we get, like,
No.
they walk for a reason? Do we get their comments or whatever that
Nope.
might be?
Nope. No, I think it's so they have context so that when they get our comments, they've actually seen them.
Okay. So to go back on, but so hypothetically, let's go back again to your question about people have asked if they could be part of the site walk. So if it was under regular circumstances and Mass Housing came out and they invited us and we all walked together, Mass Housing would not want residents there, would they?
It'd be fine. No, I've been part of them. If not for this coronavirus, there wouldn't be an issue with having members of the public present.
Yeah, I think at this point, though, we
Okay.
just be cautious about how many people are involved and social distance. So I don't know how we handle that, but I mean, it seems to me.
If everybody has a mask and gloves on, there'll be less risks for them going that site work than they would be to go to Market Basket. So I would ask. I'd tell people about it.
One thing.
And nobody.
Glenn, do you think we should publicize it?
Yeah, I do. I mean, seriously, think about going to Market Basket. I mean, there'd be more risk to go to Market Basket, but people, if they show up, they have to have masks on. I think we need to set a couple of rules beforehand. They just can't show up without any masks and think they're going to be part of anything. And, we would need to have some, board health guidelines if they want to participate. That would be my thing, because we start having site walks without neighbors who want to come. It's not a good.
I agree. Yeah.
So to go back on those questions, Angus, before we get away from that. Are you
But let's figure out when we want to do the walk.
Well, let's do it next Tuesday or next Thursday afternoon at 3:00, depending on weather. I just threw those dates out. I don't even care. I just did it for discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
Do it earlier in the morning. I don't care.
I can make any day.
Yeah. At the moment, I can make any time.
I've got some time off coming up, so I'd rather push it to the week of the 27th, not because of
Perfect.
I couldn't do those dates, but just because of the lead time. And it's not much to send notice out to people, but I know that doing so will set in motion some amount of correspondence. So I want to make sure I don't send something out and then leave the office for a couple of days on a mini vacation. So maybe the week.
Okay, why don't you do it?
It's the week of the 27th. Is that too far out for people? I think we should do the conference call sooner. Or do you want to do that before we actually, you might want to do that before. You might want to do the site walk first. We could do it sooner, if not for, advance
Do it
notice.
the week of the 27th. Do it the week of the 27th. We don't have to have our stuff in until June, right?
That's right, mid-June. That's right.
I would rather do the walk first before the call. Yeah.
Okay.
I will do a spreadsheet on that.
Okay, so
So do it the week of the 27th, Tuesday or Thursday, or when. I don't care what day it is. Just don't make it on Monday.
Angus, I would suggest that maybe you reach out to the neighbors and ask one or two representatives
that's
instead
a
of
great
just,
suggestion, Mike. Yeah.
instead of just everybody. Just say, hey, listen, choose a couple of people to be able to accompany us.
I think that's a terrific suggestion. Yeah. And I'm sure they'll understand.
And they can bring their phones and they can phone it and they can bring it back and have a neighborhood meeting with it.
Yep. That's
good.
great.
Okay, so to go back on those questions you were talking about.
Yep.
You're getting a bunch of questions in.
That's right.
What do you do with the one? what do you do with the ones that aren't relevant? You know, are you prioritizing ones that, you know, the town, you know, because I've seen a lot of questions that, you know, I know they're all important for people, but that we have nothing to do with. You know what I mean? Or are you trying to answer every single one that comes in?
Some are completely wrong, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Or maybe, I guess, now that I'm saying this out loud, maybe it's important that those, or just say, you know, you're wrong and it's not applicable or something like that. I don't know. Maybe we do need to address it so wrong information doesn't get disseminated because we didn't answer it.
Yeah,
never
my
mind.
tendency is, you know, there's that old adage, no such thing as a dumb question. So I think, you know, in terms of prioritizing, I would definitely focus my time initially on things that, you know, seem to be most timely and relevant. But I think we would go away and intending to provide at least some response to every question.
Okay.
Obviously, you know, part of the work that Jenny's been doing is to synthesize. So if, you know, 3 or 4 people are asking substantially similar questions, to consolidate that. So she's doing that work and working on the responses. And then I do want to give myself some time to get the town planner and conservation agent, legal counsel, you know, Mike McCarron and so forth, to be able to give a once over to what I'm preparing before we put it out there to make sure that we've got it right.
Angus,
Okay.
when you put up the Q&A, you know, the frequently asked question, but there should be a reference there to, you know, an easy link to whatever regulations there are that people could reference and answer some of their own questions. And, you know, we should make it as easy as possible for people to find the answers themselves and find out more, even answer their questions more thoroughly than they might get otherwise. I don't know how many people will take the time, but some people will take the time if the information is presented to them.
No question about it. There's some great references, and we can, you know, either post those directly on the town website or post links to them. And then within the FAQ, I definitely agree that if there's already a well-framed answer out there, we could just reference it rather than reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, because I mean, clearly some people, based on the questions we've seen so far, some people think that the town has some huge capacity or capability to make the decision.
Yes, exactly.
And it needs to be clear to them that we don't. You know, that
Well,
we're gonna do the best
on
we
this, yeah.
and then present our best case, but in the end, we're not the ones who are making the decision.
Okay. Take a motion to adjourn.
Nothing. We got nothing else. I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Kemper, aye. Stay safe, everybody. Good meeting. Thank you, Angus. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye-bye.